All right. Hi, I'm Lou Ann Worley from Rock and Book Reviews, and I'm so happy to be here with Maria Andreu. And she is a very talented author, and I'm excited to visit with her today. Maria, tell us your experience, which brought you here to the United States as an immigrant.
Yeah, and in a short, I mean, it's a long and kind of winding story, but in short, my parents came here and overstayed a visitor's visa, and so we're undocumented. But then there was a death in the family when I was 6, and so my mother and I traveled to Argentina to go to that family, the family gathering together for this funeral. And we couldn't get back in because we had been undocumented. So we were separated from my father for 2 years and then crossed the US-Mexico border undocumented. My family's not from Mexico, they're from Argentina, but we crossed the border undocumented, and I was undocumented until I was 18.
Just an observation. I think so many of us in the United States thinks if you're from Argentina, you've got to have the really dark olive skin.
Yeah,
Are there
yeah.
a lot of light-skinned people in Argentina?
In all of Latin America, really, because it is very much a melting pot. I was going to say in the way that the United States is, not quite in the same way, because the United States pulled it just in different immigration patterns, but there are people who are of European descent, like my family is, and so, and even of European descent, can mean anywhere from very light skin, blonde hair, blue eyes to much darker. But then also, there's a big East Asian population, and of course, they're descendants of indigenous people. So it's very much a melting pot.
That's interesting. I had a young friend that was from Argentina, and she didn't know very much English. She had a really hard time in elementary, and but she was very Spanish looking.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I asked her, because you're so light skinned that it was just kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I always tell people we can do the rest of the interview in Spanish if you want.
Hey, I'd love that. I need to brush up on mine. Okay. What was your experience in America like as an immigrant? What challenges did you have?
Well, I mean, again, that's a lifetime full of experiences to condense into a short answer. But I think the experience that informed Love in English, which is the book that we're going to talk about in a little bit, I think, is having come here and not speaking English and what that feels like. So I was 8. I was a little younger than the character when I came over and didn't speak English. But I have memories of what it was like to sit in the classroom and not understand the teacher, not understand the kids around me, wonder how I was going to make friends and, get good grades and all of those things. Because I was in this world where no one else could get in. And I was lucky, when you're young like that, language acquisition is easier. So obviously it seems to have worked out for me in English, but I have a lot of strong memories of what that was like.
Were you accepted by other children, or were you mistreated, or?
I mean, a little bit of both. I do have the privilege of white skin, like we were just talking about. And so I probably, if you see me in a crowd, you can't really look at me and know things about me in the way that you can with people of color. And so I definitely benefited from that. So I was lucky that way. And also I was lucky because the area where I was going to school, even though most of the kids spoke English, it's just outside New York City, and it was very multicultural. And so differences were understood, accepted. I did have a few experiences, though. There was a boy we lived in the basement when I was small, and he and his family lived in the first floor. And, it was before I was able to start school. So he was one of the first kids I could really play with consistently. And then all of a sudden, one day I started to notice that he was dodging me, that he wouldn't come out to play like he used to. And then finally one day I was able to corner him and, ask him what was going on. and he used a slur that I'm not going to repeat, but that his parents had told him that I was a dirty blank and that that he couldn't play with me anymore. And he, we were little kids, so he almost said it like apologetically, like it wasn't coming from him, it was coming from someone else. And that's probably the most painful memory I have of that.
It is sad that most of us aren't more like children in that manner. They're so accepting.
Yeah, I mean, I think we learn all of our ideas that we have about people, about how they're different or not like us, or we don't want to be like them. So it would be nice if we could not pass that on. That's one of the reasons I love writing these kinds of books, because I think even teenage readers and younger readers are very open to just accepting people for who they are and not necessarily our surface differences. So that's pretty.
I agree totally with you on that. Okay. In your first book, Secret Side of Empty, it was largely based on your own experiences. Can you share some of those?
Sure. So when my mom and I crossed the border undocumented, I remember a feeling, there had been this feeling of everything's going to be okay once we get back over there, and that started to fade pretty quick. Like over time, I was going to say pretty quickly. It faded a little bit when I got home and I realized, we were very poor, and so there were a lot of financial struggles. But as I got older and became a teenager, I began to understand what being undocumented meant. It meant no social security number, which meant no driver's license like my friends were getting, which meant no after school job, and college started to seem really impossible. And, it was pre-internet and pre-ways of finding help. Not that it's not hard now, it's in some ways harder now, but for me, it was a very isolating experience. I didn't trust anyone at school, any of the teachers. I had been raised very much, being undocumented is a lot about fear, like who's going to tell on you, if you get into a run-in with police, are they going to run your immigration history and and send you away? And so I never told anyone. And so it didn't feel like there was any help. And as I got closer to 18, it just seemed like this cliff I was going to fall from. Like, what did I do after that? Did I get, cash jobs off the books? What was I going to do? And so a lot of that pain and fear and just sadness and all of those feelings went into The Secret Side of Empty. So when people ask me, is it autobiographical? The events in the book are not necessarily all autobiographical, but the feelings of what it's like to grow up undocumented are in there. All mine.
I'm anxious to read that one of these days. So
I love that.
Okay, throughout most of your life, you've wanted to be a writer, correct?
Yes.
What inspired you to finally get down to it and write?
Oh, goodness. I wrote the whole time. The problem wasn't in the writing. The problem was in getting other people to read it because the publishing industry is hard and it's opaque. And I think growing up poor and without a lot of connections actually affects that because, other people that I know, had a parent who knew a person who knew an agent, and not to say that everybody gets it from connections, but when you just have a lack of access and information and money, like some people can go and get masters of fine arts, and that kind of fast tracks the process. I couldn't do that. And so there was just a lot of kind of bumping my head into locked doors and trying to find my way. And so what finally through my 20s, I kept trying to, I would write stories and send them off to journals, and they would take 8 months to tell me no, thank you, via snail mail. That's how it happened back then. And then finally, after I had my kids, the kids take up time from your life. So there was a period of my life that I was just focused on raising small children. And then I took a class in New York. And that teacher finally broke it down. Like, this is how you do it. Here's the name of the editor at Newsweek, which was the first national publication that took one of my essays. Here's what's going to work. Here's what's not going to work. And in a fun full circle story, she actually has a book coming out this summer and has just invited me to do a panel with her. So it's like it all comes back around. Yeah. So, but it just took a long time to find the door that I could finally open.
Okay, do you have any other comments you would like to add?
No, it's just a delight to talk with you. And by the way, we focused on some of the hardships of being an immigrant, but Love in English is very much a celebration. It's about a girl named Anna who comes over from Argentina and is trying to make it this first year. And so there is some of that difficulty of what it's like to learn the language and the quirks of English. English is beautiful and I love it, but it's a very quirky language. So I play with some of that and some of the poetry. And then, you know, she falls in love and wants to be a regular girl. So there's a lot of that in there as well. So I hope people will check it out.
And I can recommend that book.
Well, I really appreciate
I have not only read it, but we have it up for a giveaway, correct?
Oh, yes, that's right. Please enter to win.
So for all of you, please enter for this giveaway for a free print copy of Love in English. I forgot to bring the book. So.
Oh, that's funny. And you know, I just cleaned up my office, so mine's all the way on a bookshelf over there. So,
but anyhow, it is a really well written and fun book, and I really totally recommend it. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you everyone for watching.
And have a good day.
You too.
And for all of you viewers, please search the universe through books. Goodbye.